Welcome back to the channel. So today I'm going to talk about what I learned owning two apartment complexes in a mobile home park for about a year and a half to 2 years now. So for those of you who don't know, I started off house hacking single family homes in Northern California. And after buying about, five single family homes in, California, which is a very expensive market, averaging around $1 million was my purchase price. And after buying five of those, I quickly realized that I need to, get more cash flow and scale faster. And that's when I decided to pivot into commercial real estate. So the natural progression is apartment complexes. It's still like single family homes, but more units in one building. So, I bought a 26 unit first. And after buying my apartment complex, I had shiny object syndrome and jumped into mobile home parks, which I thought was going to be like single family homes or apartment complexes, but it's its own different beast for a different video. And shortly after that, I bought a 20 unit apartment complex. So for based on my experience over the past 2 years, the natural progression of most real estate investors is we all start off in single family homes. And the reason for that is it's just comfortable, right? A lot of us grew up in a single family home that maybe our parents owned. A lot of us may have had parents where they had a home that they lived in, but they also had another single family home that they used to live in that they kept and rented out, right? So that's what I grew up with. My parents had a house that we lived in, and then we had a little townhome that we would rent out as well, which we used to live in. So, as a result, since you know it, you're comfortable with it, you can get good loans on it with low down. That's where you start. And then from there, once you kind of scaled up to five single family homes, that's a lot of single family homes, right? A lot of people just have their home and maybe one rental home that they used to live in. But once you kind of hit five, especially in California, it's not much cash flow. It's more of an appreciation play. So typically, you're lucky if you break even on cash flow, or you're slightly negative while self-managing yourself. Keep in mind, I'm self-managing on my single-family homes in California, and I'm breaking even or slightly negative, so it doesn't make my debt-to-income ratio look that great. So once you hit five, you kind of hit a wall. At that point, I said, okay, I'm going out of state, and I want to buy apartment complexes where I could get, for the same price of a single-family home in California of around $1 million, I could probably get, maybe a 20, 30 unit apartment complex in Oklahoma. So that led me to buying my first 26 unit apartment complex in Oklahoma. I actually got it for half a million. It appraised at around 750,000, day one. But to me, this was mind blowing. Like I didn't even realize you could buy a 26 unit for $750,000, which is the price of a single family home. Right in California, 26 unit apartment complex is probably a couple million, right? Probably like 4 to 5 million. So I just said, wow, this is insane. So, I bought my 26 unit mobile home park, then 20 unit. So what did I learn from doing all this, right? I got my first apartment complex back in August of 2021. So we're coming about 2 years. Got the mobile home park in November of 2021. And I got my 20 unit in May of 2022. So that's about 80 units in the span of about 8 months. So I scaled fast. So this is what I learned. The first thing I learned was it takes a lot more time than you expect and more money to stabilize these assets, right? Like my 26 unit, when I bought it, my contractor took like at least 6 to 8 months before he even touched my property because he was backed up on his prior deal. And during this time, it was middle of 2021. There was labor shortages, there were supply shortages. So you'd order like kitchen cabinets from Home Depot, and it would take them like 5 to 8 weeks for them to ship it. And if it takes that long, you're just waiting, right? Unfortunately, the unit, you demolish the kitchen, you're just waiting for this kitchen to come, and it's costing you money as the owner, right? Like I'm not getting rent because there's no kitchen. So, that caused a huge delay. And then the things that what I was quoted like, 6 months ago, obviously it got more expensive, right? You have to pay the workers more, materials cost more, so that costed me more money. The next thing I learned is um, number two is you don't want to scale too fast. So for those that watch my other videos, you know that I don't really advocate for scaling as fast as me because if I make one mistake, it affects 80 units. Versus if you make a mistake on a single family home, you just affect the one unit, right? So my mistakes were amplified. Where if I'm making, $100 mistake, it's amplified across 80 units. Versus if I make $100 mistake for a single family home, it's just $100. So while doing that, I was just so focused on scaling and buying real estate. I wasn't focused on stabilizing because my renovations were delayed, right? My renovations was delayed 8 months. So I said, okay, well, let me continue to buy real estate. So I decided to buy a mobile home park, and then my mobile home park, I was renovating it. I thought it was going smoothly. I just said, okay, I got this under the ropes. Mobile home park is being renovated. I have my team there. My 26 unit, it's on pause a little bit because there's no general contractor available. So let me go buy this 20 unit apartment complex, which I have a renovator or general contractor ready to go. Right. So that's the one my 20 unit that I bought in May of 2022. So literally at the same time in June of 2022, that's when my renovations picked up for all three of my value add deals. My 26 unit, I finally started renovations, right? New roof, 30,000, renovating each unit about 10 to 15,000 each. So I was doing like 2 units per month, right? Full brand new everything in the 26 unit. New kitchen, new bathroom, everything was brand new. Cost around 10 to 15,000 each, depending on what. On top of that, my mobile home park, I'm pumping in $25,000 a month to renovate about two of those mobile homes a month as well. And on top of that, I'm doing my 20 unit where it's costing me my 20 unit. The first one I renovated was this burned out unit, which costed $40,000, and then these other units that were pretty bad, not as bad as the burn down, but they were costing me 10,000. So all of a sudden, like June of 2022 hit, and I'm pumping out like hundreds of $1,000s for renovation costs a month, and I'm hitting them all simultaneously, right? But what happens when doing three projects simultaneously is you're juggling like three, four balls, five balls, right? I'm still working full time. I still got my single family homes. I'm trying to build a social media presence as well. So you're juggling all these balls, and what happens is you're going to drop some balls, right? And when you start to drop balls, whether the ball is actual money or the ball is time, because if let's just say I neglected my 26 unit for a little bit and there's a delay that I didn't catch, and it took me 2 weeks to catch a delay, that just costed me 2 weeks of this unit not being rented out because I'm so focused on my mobile home park or focused on my 20 unit, right? So when you own a bunch of apartment complexes and mobile home parks, time is money. Literally. The longer you are delayed, it's opportunity cost, right? Every day that this unit is not fully renovated and not rented out, it's costing me $700 a month. Opportunity cost, right? So as a result, when you're juggling multiple things, I'll be honest, I was putting most of my time and attention to my mobile home park because that's where most of my money was. And that's what led me to decide to sell it. I was like, you know what? I'm just average at apartment. I'm good at apartments, average at mobile home parks. I'm putting all my time and attention to mobile home park. It's costing me time from my two apartment complexes, which is costing me money and my attention. Because when you hit a certain level, you only have so much brain bandwidth in your brain and attention span that things were falling in the cracks. Right, I was forgetting to do simple things like, oh, I forgot to renew my LLCs. I forgot to pay property tax in time. I forgot to do these things, right? Like I was just dropping the ball on multiple things, and like, oh, I forgot to cancel my subscription, which was costing me money. So I was just bleeding money, bleeding money, bleeding money because I was just like putting out fires day by day, right? And no one can blame you. It's not easy, especially mobile home parks, right? You need a full team to do this. I don't recommend going in by yourself like what I did. Even though I have an on-site manager, off-site manager, you're still heavily involved. You have to keep on top of them because no one will care about your property as much as you, right? Like I said, if your property manager causes a 1 week delay, that's costing you 1 week of income. That's why I act with such a sense of urgency because time is money for me, literally. Every day that it's delayed, it's costing me money. And you have to have that sense of urgency, right? So it's a give and take. If you're going to scale rapidly like what I did, you're going to lose a lot of money due to lack of bandwidth. Versus if you do one deal at a time, you have more time and attention to it, but maybe you won't scale as fast, right? So give and take and evaluate the season of your life, right? Like for me, I'm still working full time. Probably didn't make sense to buy that many deals that fast. I probably should have done one at a time. But in retrospect, I learned a lot doing it, and I learned what I want to do moving forward. So it got me to learn that I don't want to do mobile home parks by myself anymore. I'd rather just invest with a syndicator, let them do all the work because you need a full team, right? Vertically integrated mobile home park operator, in-house property management because it's hard to find a good property manager in mobile home parks. In-house renovation crew. It's hard to find a renovation crew that can renovate mobile homes. It's different to renovate mobile homes versus apartments. You need a regional manager in-house, like on site, to coordinate everything. You need an in-house installer so they can install those new mobile homes. You gotta have someone who needs to lease or sell these homes. There's a lot of moving pieces, right? So like, don't get me wrong, like I can't do it myself. I'm not gonna do a good job. So I'd rather just, I sold the deal, get rid of the deal, move on, take that money and double down in an apartment complex, which I know it's easy, right? Apartment's easy. All I need to do is renovate the unit, lease out the unit. That's it. If I do that, I'm good, right? Most of the hard work is renovating the unit. Once it's renovated, you just lease it out. If the tenant leaves, you just lease it out again. So it's just a matter of pushing your property managers to renovate faster. So like my general contractor for my 20 unit, now that he's done on my 20 unit, or whenever he's finished with it, I can send him to my 26 unit to help out my other general contractor over there. Because I know he's expensive, but he's fast. Versus my 26 unit general contractor, he's slow, but he's cheap. So it's give and take, right? So eventually I might have them both there to renovate those units faster so they can get, leased up faster. But honestly, I'm probably not going to do a cash out refinance with these interest rates right now. I have a 4% locked in for 10 years. I'm not going to refinance it to like a 7.5% to 8%. Doesn't make sense. I'll just cash flow. And eventually, when interest rates drop down to maybe 5% or around that range, maybe I'll do a large cash out refi, pull that money there. So that's another thing I learned. Another thing that I learned while owning all these units, and sorry, I'm going all over the place. I'm just brain dumping everything onto you guys to give you guys as much value as possible. But basically, another thing that I learned was with multifamily, you have to be very patient with the cash flow. Like with single family, it's easy, right? I buy a single family home. My monthly cost is 1,500. I rent it out for 2,000. Roughly, my cash flow is 500 a month, right? After, assuming the 1,500 includes all property management, capex, reserves, all that stuff, right? Easy, right? You buy it, make it rent ready, but you rent it for 2,000. You cash flow $500 a month, easy, right? You can probably do that within 1 to 2 months. With apartment complexes, what I'm going through is I'm doing the value add portion, right? So I'm buying this 20 unit apartment complex where the rents are under market and it's probably a lot of deferred maintenance in it, right? Because the prior owner didn't want to spend money to renovate it. So I'm coming in, I'm buying it. Tenants are paying $300 in rent. Market rent is 500 to 550. So I'm coming in. Obviously, when you get a new owner, people are going to take advantage of the situation. They're not going to pay. You evict them. They're gone. Now you have more vacancy. And as you start doing renovations, they don't like it because it's loud. They don't like it during the day. And they know that the rent raises are coming, right? Because this new owner is coming in. He's probably going to raise their rents. He's going to renovate it. So you're going to weed out a lot of those like lower end tenants, which is fine. That's what you want, right? You have to typically turn over the tenant base. So typically you renovate, some units. And what I learned too in another video I talked about is the general contractor, they renovate in batches. It's not just renovate one unit, rent out that one unit, renovate one unit, rent out that unit. No, the reality is if you got 4 vacant units, they're going to renovate all 4 at the same time, and all 4 of those are going to finish at the same time, and your property managers have to lease out all 4. And the reason for that is typically you have to, if you're doing new kitchens, right? You hire the contractor, they're going to demolish all kitchens in all 4 units. At that point, they're going to install the kitchen for all 4 units. And the painter comes in, he's going to paint all 4 units. You have the bathroom guy come in, he's going to renovate all 4 units. Then you have the floor guy at the end, he's going to put new flooring for all 4 units, right? So unfortunately, it's best for cash flow. You renovate one, rent out one, renovate one, rent out one. Reality is it's going to come in batches. So he would do 4, renovate 4, finish 4, then my property manager would then lease out those 4. But it get easy for my property manager because they could just do a huge open house, show all the units, and then basically just be like, hey, whatever ones you want, you got 3, 4 good ones, you can rent them all out, right? So that's the reality that I learned. And then at that point, you're renovating these units, you're putting in, $5,000 to $10,000 each, then rent it out to say, I was kind of anxious, like what would my rents be? So I was able to hit around 500 to 550. 500 for the smaller units, 550 for the larger units. So then I said, okay, I'm good. And now I know my rents. I know how to renovate these units. Now I repeat the process, right? So now I renovate the next, 4 units, then rent those 4 units. So I basically had to do that for about, I think, 16 units, So I did about 4 batches where I'm just pumping these units out, turning them over, and bringing new tenants. So it's a lot of work, right? It's a lot of work. You have to renovate these units and then lease them out as fast as possible. So what I did was I did move-in specials at $77. So they'd move in for $77 plus security deposit, and after that they would then pay me $500 or 550 a month after that. So for me, I want to get these leased out because I have a hard money loan on that, and then you just repeat that process until where I am today, 90% occupied. 18 out of 20. I think 14 of those tenants are brand new. I still have 4 tenants that are existing, and we're probably going to raise their rents on them after I'm done with my cash out refinance. So it's common, right? You're buying this asset, you're renovating it. You're lucky to break even. Like, I think for the most part, the property was kind of self-sufficient. I had to kind of put in the renovation cost on top of that. I think the cash flow can kind of cover some of the renovation costs. So, when I took over the property, I was averaging around 5,000 a month. Once bunch of people left, I was only getting 3,000, which just covered my loan. And then at that point, I slowly scaled up to where I'm at, which is made close to like $9,000 where I'm at today. So you add all this value. Now you're making cash flow, right? I'm getting 9,000 a month. My loan insurance is probably 3,000. You have some expense in there as well. So I'm actually positive cash flow right now. But when you cash out refinance, you get a larger loan at a higher interest rate. That's when your cash flow cuts down again. So at a high level, when you first buy a value-add apartment complex, your first 1 to 3 years is called stabilization. At this point, you're renovating units, turning tenants over, bringing in new tenants. It might take 1 to 3 years. So you're not really making much cash flow at that time, but you're forcing a lot of appreciation. So your first 3 years, 1 to 3 years, you're just forcing appreciation. And you get your payday when you do your cash out refinance, right? So that's when you get your down payment back, you get your renovation costs back, and you might get additional money on top of that. So that's your payday, right? So I was able to pull out 50,000. If you divide that by 12, that's roughly $4,000 a month of tax-free cash flow that I pulled, that I cash in on, right? But what happens when you pull out a big loan? Your loan amount's higher, your rent's still at 9,000, your loan amount's higher, so you're not going to be cash flowing as much, right? So I ate into my cash flow by taking a cash out refinance. At that point, you have to wait another maybe 1 to 5, maybe 3 to 5 years where you're organically raising the rents every year, right? Every year when you renew the lease, you raise the rents by 15 to 25 bucks to $50 every year. So you're at 500, 515, 530, 545. Over time the rents go up. At that point, that's when you start to build cash flow, because that's when it compounds. Because imagine you raise your rents by $50 per unit times 20 units. That's $1,000 in cash flow the next year. Raise another $50. That's another $1,000 in cash flow. So now you have $2,000 in cash flow. And this is all profit at this point, because your expenses, for the most part, stay stagnant or pretty fixed. So at this point, you're just kind of keeping your expenses short. Like, is your insurance affordable? Is it at a good rate? Are you keeping expenses low? Are tenants, paying for their own utilities? All that stuff. So at that point, that's when you get cash flow. But then if you do another cash out refinance, you just reset your cash flow again for another 1 to 5 years. So that's how you do real estate, right? Like, it's more of an appreciation play up front, then later it's cash flow. But then if you do another cash out refinance, now you're back with pulling appreciation, and you do cash flow. So that's what I kind of learned, doing my 20 unit, my 26 unit, my mobile home park, right? So same thing with my 26 unit. Like, my 26 unit, we're renovating a lot of units. There's like, I think only out of 26, only 16 are rented out. So I got 10 vacants that we're renovating. That one's only getting $10,000 a month in cash flow. My loan is about 2,000. I can do a detailed video about my 26 unit if you guys are interested. But at a high level, I'm getting about 10,000. My loan is 2,000. Insurance is about 1,500. So that's 3,500. Property tax is about 500. So that's 4,000. So, this one I'm technically cash flowing. So this one, it's giving me money to renovate these units, right? But I'm reinvesting that money back into it. But if all these 10 units are leased out at $7,000 more, this thing's gonna be a cash cow until I do a cash out refinance at the new ARV of probably 1.5 million, right? My current loan's about 400,000, but if it's ARV 1.5 million, 70% loan to value, my new loan's gonna be huge, right? It's gonna be probably 1.2 million. It's gonna eat to my cash flow, but I'm gonna pull all that money tax free, lump sum. So I'm giving that one time. And then my mobile home park, like that one, I was fixing up a bunch of homes, putting a lot of money to fix up these homes, rent it out, brought in two brand new mobile homes from True Homes. If you see my videos, I can do another video about it. I brought in True Homes in there, put it down, and rented them out. I got them 100% financed through a lender for 45,000, roughly all in, including installation costs. Put that home down, then rented it out for about I think 750 to 800. So I approved that model to a syndicator, and now I sold it to a syndicator at a higher price, right? So I prove the plan. Hey, I renovated 20 units. I'm able to rent these out for whatever 450 to 500 for the existing homes there that need repair. I also brought in two brand new homes using this lender who approved it. I bought for through True Homes, which is about 45,000. It's actually cheaper now, ironically. So probably about 43,000. And on top of that, I was able to rent those out. I have an installer that can install it. I was able to rent those out for 750 to 800, and my all-in cost for the loan is about 400. So you have that $400 spread as a park-owned home. So I proved that model, and then I sold it to a bigger syndicator who has more money, who has a team to do that. So I realized that one wasn't really cash flow. That was forced depreciation. It was a kind of, I call it a fix and flip, right? Like I just bought it, proved the model, flipped it to a larger syndicator because it's a 200 lot mobile home park, right? I'm only at like 50 out of 200. So he still has 150 more to go. That's a lot to do. If he can fill all 150, I mean, that thing is going to be worth like 10 million plus, right? If you can do it, it's going to be a lot of work, a lot of time. So I proved the model. I flipped it to a larger syndicator, and they're going to take the plan the rest of the way. So that's how I made my money on the deal. I bought it right, and I'm going to flip it after proving the model. So, that's another thing that I learned. So, because if you asked me 2 years ago, hey, hey, Steven, you're going to own 90 units of real estate. I'm retired and making so much cash flow. Reality is, the first couple years, you're just forcing appreciation. You're going to do cash out refinance. It resets your cash flow. At that point, you have to wait another 3 to 5 years until you start to cash flow. So you still have to work. You still have to find sources of income from other places, whatever that is, day job, social media, whatever that is. Still have to keep at it. So, very humbling to learn that over the past year and a half. And the last thing I want to emphasize is just dealing with the stress. So I'll be honest, the past year from May of 2022 to May of 2023, it's been really stressful on me, right? I stopped buying additional real estate. I have no more mental capacity, mental bandwidth to do it. I'm writing out huge checks, every month. Psychologically, it doesn't feel good. I'm getting really stressed to the point where I'm not enjoying real estate anymore. Now I'm a little bit happier because I'm towards the end of my 20 unit. Hopefully I'm selling my mobile home park here shortly, so I'll be free of that. And my 26 unit, it's pretty passive for the most part. I just got to continue renovating the units the same exact way. So, with those two being off my plate, I can then focus all my energy on my 26 unit apartment complex, as well as creating more content for you guys. So, but it's just been very stressful. I'll be honest, like I've never experienced this level of stress. I have a pretty high stress tolerance, I'll be honest, compared to your average person. But man, this cracked me. Like, I felt stress in how it affected every piece of my body part. Like my eyes, some days, my eyes would feel like there's like this huge pressure on it to the point where I couldn't keep my eyes open, right? Like if I look at a computer screen or while I'm driving, I just feel like I'm falling asleep. And that's what stress does to your eyes, right? It creates that pressure. The next thing is like, it caused me to like clench my mouth at night. So at night, it's called bruxism, where I'm like clenching my mouth and like grinding my teeth due to stress. So you wake up and you can feel like the side of your cheek is like really, it's like almost like a knot, like a huge muscle in the side of your cheek. It's like very tense. And over time, when you're constantly clenching and grinding your teeth, it's going to give you a headache. So I woke up with like a bad tension headache, right? At this point, too, like my stress tolerance decreased significantly. I'm just so stressed. I'm so burnt out. Like any little inconvenience that happened to me, I couldn't tolerate as well. Like if I had a flat tire, right? I'd be so stressed out from a flat tire. If work got busy, I'd be so stressed out from work. If I had a car issue that broke down, my car broke down, I'd be so stressed out by that. But versus 2 years ago or even a year ago, if that happened, I'd just be whatever about it. Hey, whatever, it happens. But now I'm just like so stressed out, I'm burnt out. Every little thing affects me, it rubs me the wrong way. And you're just overreactive. You have that cortisol spike, so I just wasn't, honestly fun to be around, right? Like I'm just so stressed out. My girlfriend sensed it. My family could sense it. Um, and it comes with the territory. It's not easy trying to build financial freedom through real estate. And owning 80 units yourself, right? It's never easy, but if you can do it, it'll be life changing. So my vision was, well, if I can sacrifice 1 to 2 years right now and be stressed, I can lay a financial future foundation for my future. But going back to the stress effects, right? Like, I had headaches, my eye pressure, I was clenching my jaw. For your stomach, like you're constipated, right? Like you don't when you're in the fight or flight mode, your body isn't going to relax to digest your food. So like if you're used to going to the restroom, doing a number two on a daily basis, you might be on every like 3 to 5 days, right? Which is abnormal. Um, in terms of energy, you're just constantly tired, right? Your body doesn't recover as well. Like, I like to work out periodically, not as much as I used to, because I kind of had to give that up a little bit, unfortunately. But yeah, when I work out, like my body doesn't recover as fast. Like I'm lifting the same weights, and when I'm sore, it used to take me, a day to recover, but now it might take me 3 days to recover. I'm more susceptible to getting sick, right? I got, sick the most the past year. I caught COVID, and, caught the cold, caught the flu. You're just more susceptible to being stressed. Like the cortisol causes inflammation, right? So it makes your face a little more puffy. Cortisol causes you to get more belly fat, right? So I noticed I had more belly fat around my stomach because that's a stress response. It creates more fat production. Um, on top of that, I would feel the stress in my neck. So I'd get big knots like right here, right here. My neck would feel really tense right here. So for me, the stress hits my neck area. So I have to like get massages frequently to get the knots out. Um, Overall, you're just kind of like so tired and like you have no energy. So during this time, I really had to hone in. Like, I need to sleep right. I got to get 8 to 9 hours of sleep. I got to make sure I eat 3 meals. I got to make sure that I'm taking appropriate supplementation, right, to take care of myself. You know, I'm, most people like if you work in a hospital, you're usually vitamin D deficient, right? We don't get enough sunlight naturally, so I have to start taking vitamin D supplements over the counter. 200 micrograms. I have to start taking magnesium. So, magnesium actually helps with the clenching, which was causing my headaches. So, and this is the healthcare side of me, right? Like I'm actually legitimately a pharmacist. I'm not just a real estate investor, but the magnesium deficiency can cause you to clench your mouth, which creates headaches. So I started taking magnesium supplements over the counter, 200 milligrams. And once I started taking that, I noticed that like my clenching reduced and reduced my headaches. So I was probably deficient in magnesium, right? Not a lot of foods give you magnesium. I think it's a lot of nuts like almonds, macadamia nuts. Those give you magnesium. On top of that, I started taking a daily multivitamin. Right, like my diet isn't probably the best, so I'm probably missing something. So you have to make sure you eat properly. Right, are you taking enough water? Like I focus on drinking more water. Um, for me, it's like focusing on like meditation or mindfulness. Like if you're feeling stressed, like how to breathe. Right, like breathe in through your nose slowly. Do another inhale through your nose, and then you slowly exhale, right? If you're feeling stressed, just go for a walk. Go for a walk outside. Just know that like you're gonna have bad days, right? Like maybe 1 to 2 days a week, I'm just really stressed out. Like I wake up some days just stressed out, knowing that like I need to manage these properties. So, I've witnessed firsthand that like what the stress effects did on me. I just said, you know what, I don't want to experience this ever again. Like I'm not gonna scale that fast. Next time, I'm just gonna buy one real estate at a time, one deal at a time, right? So, once my mobile park's done, sold, I'll be done with my 20 unit. Once the cash out refinance is done, I'm good with that. My 26 unit, probably another, I'd probably say to the end of the year. I gave my property managers to the end of the year to say, hey, can you renovate those last 10 units and lease those out end of the year? They said yes. Hopefully they do it. If not, I'm gonna send my other contractor over there to help. But yeah, once that's done, then I'll probably give myself a little break. Maybe interest rates will drop by then. And at that point, I'd have all my money back out, for my 20 unit from selling my mobile home park. And then from my 26 unit, at that point, I can buy another piece of real estate. If I'm doing, let's say, a 50 unit value add, I'm just going to buy that and stop, right? Because I'm going to need all my time, all my attention, all my money will be allocated towards that. Or if I don't if I don't mind paying market value and buying something turnkey, because maybe at that stage in my life, maybe I want to start a family, maybe get married, other obligations in life. In that case, I can take the real estate, just buy something turnkey that cash flows day one, and you just organically raise the rents, 25 to $50 a year. So it just really depends on what stage of life you are. Like in this stage of my life, I'm willing to take on that work, the stress, and I experienced it. I don't want to do it again. So next time, I'm going to be very methodical about it, where I don't want to scale too fast, where I'm out of control and losing myself. Versus if I just do one at a time and just focus on it, that's okay, right? Like if I retired from my day job, at that point, I could probably do 3 value add deals. But while I'm working full time, I think it just makes sense to do one value add deal while working full time, and I can manage those two, right? So either analyze your current situation and cater it to that. But for me, I learned by failing and doing it. I'm like, I was so stressful to the point where if you talked to me 2 years ago, I was so optimistic, rosy colored, nothing will fail in real estate. 2 years later, I'm super jaded, really stressed out from it, and I learned my lessons, right? But unfortunately, this is how you grow, right? You learn from hardships, you learn from taking action, and you learn from messing up. So that's how you scale in real estate, unfortunately, and then maybe you can learn from my mistakes, right? So I literally experienced stress for the past year, and just selling my mobile home park, like they kept on extending it, needing more time, extending it. And that's just every time I was like, oh, we're gonna close in March. Oh no, we need extension to April. I was so depressed and angry. And all of a sudden in April, oh, we're gonna close May. I was so depressed and angry, and now it's hopefully gonna close in May, right? So that's the key thing of having reserves is that or having lines of credit as an emergency fund that you can tap into that in case things don't happen, because things typically don't go your way. So it really got me to learn that next time I buy a 50 unit apartment complex, I want to make sure I have like an additional like $200,000 on top of that as a reserve, just in case something happens. Probably still keep my job, so I have income coming in, and focus on building my side income as well. So now I know my strategy, and I have a plan to do it methodically and slowly and gradually, right? So the key point from this is like, if I sell my mobile home park, I'll be at 50 units. Take a step back, but hey, if I get this stabilized, it's actually going to cash flow, then I can invest in a position of power versus in a position of desperation. Because let's reverse the situation where I was a distressed seller, forced to sell my mobile home park at a loss because I'm desperate. Fortunately, I'm able to sell this for a profit. It's not near the profit I'm going to make from my apartment complexes, which made me lean into it. It's like less work for apartments and more profit. So why do mobile home parks? So, that's just kind of another lesson that I learned, and saw it affect my health. And, to be honest, you can't really share it with your friends and family because like, it's not relatable. Like, most people think that, oh, you own 90 units of real estate, you must be so filthy rich. You must be cash flowing like crazy. And the answer is yes, assuming they're all stabilized for 3 to 5 years, right? I own mine for 1 to 2 years and they're not stabilized yet. So because of that, I'm not cash flowing on my 20 unit, not cash, or, all the cash flow is being reinvested to renovate the 20 unit. All the cash flow is being renovate the 26 unit. It's not coming to me. And the mobile home park is bleeding money because I'm fixing and flipping it, right? So I don't make my money until I sell it. So it's not relatable to like come to people. So it's very lonely, very stressful, which is why I always jokingly said that this is my therapy, right? Doing social media is my therapy to de-stress and to document my content and journey so that you can learn from it. So, like I said, don't recommend scaling, especially if you have kids, you have family, elderly parents to take care of. Just do it methodically. And if you determine that, hey, you know what, I can't do, value add real estate, it's too much stress, or I don't even want to do a turnkey 50 unit, like then you find someone to partner with, right? Or you invest in a syndication with a syndicator. But you at least need to know how to vet these people and be educated. So for me, I've done a mobile home park. I know how to vet a good mobile home park syndicator. So then I'll choose who to invest with, right? So it's trust but verify. So, hopefully I'll look back in, 20, 30 years and say, you know what, that mobile home park was really stressful, but I learned a lot about myself during that time. I learned a lot about what I want in life, and I learned about how I should invest moving forward. So, unfortunately, you kind of have to hit rock bottom before you learn a lot. And when you hit rock bottom, that's when you learn the most, right? Just that's why I said, like, I was always cognizant, like, be aware, like, soak in and learn as much as you can during rock bottom, because you're going to learn so much about yourself. And since you're so emotionally charged, your brain's going to remember all these stuff, all these thoughts, emotions that you're going through. So this is the time to learn. And like I said, you can only go up from there and learn from it. So, it's been a crazy journey, right? Crazy, crazy journey. Once again, don't recommend people to go from, buy 80 units in 8 months like what I did. If you're doing it, make sure you have help or someone to bounce ideas off of. It became to the point where, I'm bouncing ideas off my girlfriend because she can see my real estate from a detached perspective versus me. I'm so emotionally involved in it that even I was like making mistakes that I would help my students when I would coach them, right? But because I'm so emotionally invested into it, my emotion goes up, my intelligence goes down. So sometimes you have to run it by a third party. I'm not thinking clearly because I'm doing so much, right? I'm doing so many things. So that's why I need to run it by my girlfriend, who learned a lot of real estate from me over the past couple of years. So, like I can say, hey, like, what do you think about this? Does this make sense? And sometimes it's just nice to hear a second opinion. And that's why I offer my weekly Q&As, right? I want my students to come in, bounce ideas off me, get an unbiased opinion. So overall, hopefully you found a lot of value from what I learned from scaling 80 units in 8 months, and hopefully you don't make the same mistakes.